guys, Exotic Dan here. Welcome back to another video. So, now basically in this video, well, first of all, before I say anything, if you guys have never seen my face before, this is my face. I haven't really done a video where I actually had my. It's been a while since I've last done a video with my face in it. So, yeah. This is my face. In today's video, I'm going to be talking a little bit about myself. Now, if you guys have seen the Draw My Life video, or the poll that I did, or I believe it was the one or two last polls that we did on the Discord server. I can't remember which one it was, but I know it was either the latest one we did or the one before the latest one we did. So, this video will be talking about my life. Now, I know that a lot of you guys maybe already commenting down or saying this like out loud in your heads by the time I already said I'm going to be talking about, well, my life. You guys are probably going like, well, didn't you already do a Draw My Life video? We kind of know a little bit about you. Well, no. Not really, because I guess you could say sort of, but not really at the same time. So, if you guys have not seen the Draw My Life video, you guys could check it out if you want to. Fair warning though, it is a little bit sad. So, today I'm going to be talking to you guys about my life, with basically what is my life like living with ASD. So, for those who totally do not know what ASD is, or basically if you do not know what ASD is, I'll basically tell you what it stands for. ASD stands for Autism Spectrum Disorder. Now, ASD, what it does is that it normally, I guess you could say that it affects the brain. So the brain works, I guess you could say, a little bit different from other brains. And it does somewhat affect like what a person does in their I guess you could say normal life, I guess. So basically I'm just gonna go over a couple things that I experience with ASD, and basically tell you some experiences with those experiences that I had. That sentence probably made no sense, but hopefully you guys know what I mean. So the first experience that I'm gonna go over is, I would call it the literal meaning. Now, for those who do not know what literal meaning is, so basically, let me tell you a little something. There are words in the whole entire English dictionary, like phrases and stuff. Basically, there are some things that have a literal meaning, and there's also some things that have a figuratively meaning. And for people who are on, and for people who have ASD, normally for some phrases, they'll some people with ASD will basically take things literally. So one example I can give you is, do you need a hand? Now, I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys may know what the phrase "do you need a hand" means, but for those who do not know what "do you need a hand" means, basically it means, do you need help? Like, do you need a hand clearing the whiteboard? Do you need a hand with your books? Do you need a hand with, you know, you kind of get what I'm saying. So basically, do you need a hand basically means if you basically, I cannot speak today. Basically, do you need a hand means basically, do you need help with something? So that's basically what do you need a hand means. But I know that there are probably going to be some people who will take this literally. But for those people, some people who have ASD will actually take the phrase "do you need a hand" literally. So for them, do you need a hand means, so for somebody who for somebody who has ASD, when they hear the phrase "do you need a hand," they may think that person is asking them if they need an actual human hand. So basically, people who have ASD do tend to take things literally. Another example that I can give you is "how goes the battle." Now, for those who do not know what "how goes the battle" means, it means "how goes your life?" or "how goes your day?" And for somebody who has ASD, they will do the same thing again, take it literally, and if somebody asks them how goes the battle, they'll be like, what battle? So basically, people with ASD will take some phrases literally. So yeah, if you post something in the comment section and you don't think I'm understanding like and so basically, if you leave like a question or a comment section in the comment section and you don't think I'm understanding it, you can always leave it. You can always I'll obviously tell you like if you can be like more specific about it, or like if you don't think I'm understanding like what you're trying to say, like you could always tell me like what you mean by it as well. Another experience is loud noises. Now, here is a little fun fact. I am not a huge fan of horror games. For a lot of you guys who don't already know, I have anxiety attacks, and I normally don't play a lot of scary games because they're just really scary, and I'm also sensitive around loud noises. So basically, I don't play horror games with earphones or headphones. And sometimes I don't even like have the device like on max volume. And as you guys can already tell, I kind of talk a little bit with my hands. So basically, I'm gonna tell you guys a little story about me when I do not know how young I was, but I know I was very young. I think I was probably in elementary school when this story took place. Or maybe even before I started school. I can't remember how old I was when this story took place, but I'm going to tell you guys a story. So basically, in Canada, I don't know if this restaurant name is in any other countries. You guys can let me know if this restaurant name is in other countries or not. But the name of this restaurant is called Ricky's. If Ricky's is in your country, then you can let me know, because I don't know if Ricky's is just a Canadian restaurant brand or if it's a restaurant brand that's owned in a whole bunch of different countries. So in the central Vancouver Island area, of the time of this story taking place, there was only one Ricky's restaurant in the central Vancouver Island area that I knew of at the time. But at the time of this story is being told, there was only one. Now there's like about two in the central Vancouver Island area. So basically, we sat down so what we did was we took a spot to sit at a Ricky's restaurant. And so basically, I was there, my mom was there, and my dad was there. And while we were there, my parents were deciding what to basically have at the restaurant. And the noise was too much for me to handle, and it caused me to have a meltdown because the noise in the restaurant was just too much. And another story that I can tell you guys about is something that happened that happens about once a year in my town, but this year it was canceled due to what's going on in the world right now. Obviously, I can't say what's going on in the world right now, or else this video will probably get hit with a community guideline strike if I say what's happening in the world right now. So basically, every year in the town that I live in, we have a celebration, and they got a whole bunch of activities going down at a local park in my town, and they would have like a whole bunch of activities. People would be like celebrating these activities. There would be snacks for people to enjoy. There would be like bouncy castles, karaoke, and there would also be and also the playground, which was part of the park, was open as well. And there would also be a parade. Every time the parade happened, there would be people in the parade throwing candy at people, and so basically they would have like these vehicles drive down a road throwing candy out of the vehicles. There'd be music, a whole bunch of companies, like the grocery store is one of them that would be taking part in the parade. There would be like people walking with grocery store shopping carts, throwing cereal boxes like out of the shopping carts, and there would also be bicycle riders, and there would also be this company that would be in the parade as well, and they're called the Lions Club. And there would also be the police. I think the police, anyways. I think the police and the ambulance, but I know for sure the fire trucks, they come down, and every single time they come by, they always blare on their sirens, and it's just too much. So every time they turn on their sirens, I like cover my ears, and so that way I don't have to listen to the loud noise. Another experience is eye contact. So eye contact is basically a little bit harder to explain than the other two. So eye contact. So sometimes people with ASD, whenever they talk, sometimes they don't make eye contact. Like, say for an example, somebody with ASD talks to somebody else. Like, this could be a friend or a family member, or a teacher, or a staff member at a school or somewhere else. So whenever you talk, whenever you talk to somebody, you normally make eye contact with them. But sometimes when people have ASD, sometimes they'll normally like look off at something in the distance, or something else. Like they may like focus on something else when they may be looking at something else when they're talking to somebody. And so yeah, basically it can be pretty hard. And sometimes when people who have ASD get older, they do manage to have more control over these things that that are basically signs and symptoms of ASD. I was able to get as I got older, I was able to control more of my signs and my symptoms of ASD. There are some that I have complete control over now, and there's also some that I don't really have control over yet. Another thing that people with ASD also experience is I would basically sometimes just say talking in general. Now, sometimes when people have ASD, they will sometimes not talk at all, and there will also be some people who actually will talk. And for the ones who do talk, they won't really talk too much. So for people with ASD, they are normally shy when it comes to talking, and sometimes they don't know really how to spark up a sentence. So basically, when they talk to somebody, like, even if it's like a friend, it's hard for them to like actually, like, I guess you could say, like, keep a conversation going, and it will be, and sometimes they may need some help to like keep the conversation going on and on and on. Obviously not for too long though, like not a 24-hour conversation, because that would obviously be way too long. But a conversation that is long enough for a normal conversation to last for. So sometimes they do need to basically sometimes people with ASD, they may need some help, like, to basically keep the conversation going on and on and on. So basically, one thing that I normally find easy to do is to basically talk to somebody that has the same interest as you, and talk about that interest that you're basically really into. So basically for me, it's like video games, music, TV shows, movies, and that's pretty much, and technology. There's another one, and school and universities, post-secondary. I'm basically interested into talking about those things, and also my future as well. That's another thing as well. So basically that's just some topics that I talk about to basically that's just something that I like really kind of talk about. And I guess you could also say that I talk about my YouTube videos as well. So there's another thing. So normally when I talk to somebody, I normally talk to them about those things. So to basically keep that conversation going on and on and on. Speaking of conversations, that brings me to the next thing about ASD. Another thing about ASD is that people with ASD, they will sometimes find things really hard to do that people who don't have ASD find easy to do. And sometimes it may be the opposite around, where the person with ASD will find something really easy to do, where people who don't have ASD find something really hard to do. So I guess we'll basically go over this, since that this is kind of the same thing. So basically, people with ASD, they'll find some things that people who don't have ASD really hard, and or it could be the other way around, where the person who has ASD finds something really easy that others who don't have ASD find really hard to do. So basically, one thing that people with ASD find really hard to do is tying their shoes. I normally don't really wear shoes with laces on them, because I find laces hard to do. There's a lot of other things that people with ASD find really hard to do. I would not everybody has not everybody with ASD finds all these things hard. Some people with ASD may actually find these things pretty easy to do, or they may know how to do some of these things, but some of these things aren't really, I guess you say, like, some people with ASD may find some of these things easy, and some people with ASD may not find them so easy to do. So basically, one thing that people with ASD find hard to do is, well, I already listed one, which is tying their shoes. Some people with ASD may find it easy to do, and some people may find it hard to do. Another thing is even making friends, which is definitely very hard. Sometimes people with ASD may ask for help to have a conversation with people, and so they'll basically talk to an adult that they can trust, like their parent or a teacher that they really like, and they'll be like, and they'll ask the question, how do I make friends with somebody? And they'll basically explain like how to make friends. You'll basically say hi, introduce yourself, and the person will say, hi, my name is so-and-so. Obviously, their name won't be so-and-so. They'll say their real name, and you'll basically just talk to them and basically, spark up a little bit of a conversation and basically talk about your hobbies or your interests, what school they go to, and all that other stuff. So basically, some people with ASD do find it hard to make friends. The next thing that is definitely really hard, and this thing that I'm going to be talking about is definitely a lot more harder than making friends. Like, this is going to be like something else that people who have ASD have troubles with. It's not just making friends, but this thing that I'm going to be talking about next is like about 10 times harder with somebody who has ASD. Like, this is probably about 10 times harder than making friends for somebody who has ASD. And some people who have ASD do tend to find this like about 10 times harder. And that thing is to basically, well, obviously, find a boyfriend or a girlfriend. So basically, some people who have ASD, I know this has actually happened before because I've seen like a video on YouTube where somebody who has ASD talked about how hard it was to basically talk to somebody who they really, 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 really liked. And so basically, they left a comment on a person's YouTube channel, and I can't remember what his name was, the guy who he left the comment on, but so basically, in that video, he basically asked this YouTuber for some advice to basically talk to somebody who they really, 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 really liked. So basically, that's one thing. That's another thing that they find hard. And basically, for somebody who has ASD, finding somebody who they really, really like is definitely a lot harder. So it's basically about 10 times harder because normally when somebody who doesn't have ASD finds somebody who they really, really like, they may ask for advice and they'll probably just, jump right on the hook and probably start actually getting to know the person and all that other stuff. But for somebody who has ASD, they find that about 10 times harder because, again, like I listed before, people who have ASD do definitely find it harder to make friends, and they also have troubles starting up a conversation as well sometimes as well, which is definitely very hard. Another thing that people who have ASD experience is basically they have extreme reactions to certain tastes and textures and light patterns. So basically, people who have ASD, I guess you could say, don't really like sometimes the taste or texture of certain foods, and basically they don't like the textures of certain things, like basically textures of certain things. Like, this can be something like a table or a bed, but that stuff that's like obviously really I guess you could say simple, I guess. Like, people with ASD, they do find some textures of things not very, I guess you could say, likable in some way, but I think a lot of you guys kind of get the gist. And light patterns, this is basically stuff like, well, flashing lights, and even bright lights. So basically anything involving with taste, textures, and light patterns, they do tend to have a little bit of a bright reaction, and they do tend to be, like, I guess you could say, a little more sharp on these types of things. Like, sometimes it's just too much for them. And I guess the last one that we'll talk about, well, no, we'll go on for about 2 more, including this one, with this one being one of the 2. So, here we go. So the next thing that I'm going to be talking to you guys about is, I guess you could say, well, basically just liking things a certain way. So basically, when people who have ASD, they normally like to have things certain ways. So basically, stuff like my video game collection that is totally off camera. You guys can't really see it, but I have like a stack of video games like over here, but it's like off camera. And then I have more games over there in that area that is also off camera. And so basically, I normally like to keep my video games like in a certain way, like in a certain position. And normally, if I see something that looks a little bit out of place, I normally just try my best to fix it so that way it looks like the way that I would normally have it. So the next thing, which will probably be the last one that I'll be talking about in this video, are definitely some of the struggles that people with ASD have. The people who have ASD do find stuff very, very hard. Like, for me, school is definitely a little bit hard in some cases. Like, don't get me wrong, I actually do enjoy going to school because I do like learning things. So sometimes people who have ASD, the one thing that's definitely really hard for them to, I guess you could say, handle is basically, well, I would say, well, as a lot of us know, there are these people in school called bullies. And what bullies are, there are basically cruel schoolmates who try to make your life impossible. Now, while there isn't too much bullying in my school, like, sure, there is some bullying that goes on in my school, but there's not really too much happening, especially, and there's especially none happening, like, right now because of the whole, basically because of the whole thing that's going on in the world right now. Again, can't say what's happening in the world right now because if I say it, this video will probably get hit with a community guideline strike. And for people who have ASD, sometimes when they are met with bullies, they basically sometimes people with ASD find it really hard to talk to somebody that they're actually getting bullied. Now, I've been bullied a lot throughout my high school years. I've been bullied every single year during my high school years. So whenever I was like met with like any sort of bullying, I kind of I just kind of like tried my best to ignore it. Like, that's normally how I deal with bullying and any sort of hate. And when I started my YouTube channel and when I received some hate comments from people, what I did was I normally just straight up ignored them. And people who have ASD do tend to talk to themselves a lot. Sometimes people will talk to themselves out loud or very quietly. Like, sometimes when I'm even, like, off camera, I will just sometimes just be talking to myself. Like, I'll normally talk to myself, like, normally how I would talk to you guys watching the video. Like, I would normally talk to myself like that. Sometimes off camera, like, whenever I'm out for walks and stuff. And sometimes when I'm even, like, out in public, like, not including walks and stuff. And sometimes people who have ASD, they sometimes need help with stuff, like in school. So basically, some people with ASD, they have this person called an EA. Now, an EA, that stands for Educational Assistant. Now, what an educational assistant is basically somebody who helps somebody who has an invisible or a visible disability. And what the educational assistant will do is that they'll normally help the student that they're meant to, like, I guess you could say help in the school. They will normally help them, like, with some of the schoolwork and basically with stuff that's basically going on in the school. And sometimes they also invite visitors from these programs called outreach programs. Now, I don't really know what outreach programs are. Like, I do know, like, what they do, but I don't know, like, what they do specifically. If you guys do know what outreach programs do, then you guys can let me know in the comments below. And so basically, sometimes the EA or the person's case manager, who I guess you could say somewhat acts like an EA, but also not really at the same time. So basically, what a case manager is basically it's somebody who basically is kind of like an EA, but also kind of not at the same time. So basically, if there's like something wrong, like if there's something wrong, like with the student, like is experiencing at school, like if it's bullying or if it's like a problem that they're facing with, they can normally bring that to their case manager. So basically, what an EA or a case manager will do is that they'll sometimes invite a visitor from an outreach program to basically help the student, like, learn some stuff. And these outreach programs are normally very easy because I found them pretty easy when I had a visitor from an outreach program come and visit me at my school. But what these outreach programs do is that they normally give, like, extra help to these students who have visible and invisible disabilities. And sometimes people who have ASD can be rule oriented as well. So basically, what rule orientation is basically being very specific about rules. So basically, if you're in a school and somebody is, like, talking, and the teacher, and as a lot of us know, the teacher normally wants students to stay, like, quiet, like when the teacher is talking. So basically, in that type of situation, the rule orientation will kick in to the student who has ASD, and they will sometimes say, guys, we shouldn't be talking, we should be listening. I'm not really like that because I know students will be students, and there's really nothing you can do about students who are basically going to be like that. Like, you know that students are going to be, like, students are going to be students. Like, people have their own personalities, and there's just really nothing we can do to basically make them, like, stay quiet. Like, when a teacher wants somebody to stay quiet, sometimes we just kind of have to let students, like, sometimes the teacher will just have to deal with the problem by him or herself. Sometimes the student, they can't really do too much, like, about it. Like, they can't really, like, I guess you could say, do too much, like, to basically change the students', like, habits, like, in the classroom or the learning environment. Sometimes we just gotta, like, let them be who they are, really. Like, sometimes, like, we just have to, like, if we notice something that is wrong, what we can normally do is to basically ignore it, or to basically bring it to a staff member or a teacher, or bring it up to somebody who can be trusted, like a trusted adult. So another thing that I did also forget to mention about ASD is that ASD is more often, like, ASD, it normally happens in, so ASD, it's basically a disability that lasts for a lifetime, and this disability is more common in boys than it is in girls. There are also some girls who also have ASD, but it's more common in boys and girls, and ASD works differently in boys and in girls. Like ASD in boys are different from girls who have ASD, and you kind of get what I'm saying. But back to the conversation that I was previously just in. So basically, these outreach programs, they do help students who have visible and invisible disabilities learn things a lot more easier. And sometimes when students with ASD finish high school, sometimes they'll decide to go to university or post-secondary schools, or sometimes they may not even go to post-secondary schools. But I know for everybody, post-secondary school is something optional. Like, you can go there if you want to, but you don't have to go there if you don't want to. It's totally optional, which means you can decide if you want to go to post-secondary school or not. But anyways, I think this is where I'm going to end off today's video. If you guys have any questions about ASD, you can leave them down in the comments below, or if you think if there's anything that I missed, you can also leave that down in the comments below as well. And until then, I will definitely see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.